Hello and welcome to Empire of Wargames. My name is Eplash and today we are going to talk about if combat patrols and by extension start collectings are the best way to get into an army or to start with Warhammer 40k. If you enjoy the content, consider leaving a thumbs up, subscribing, as well as checking the channel's Ko-Fi if you want to support Empire of Wargames further. Alright, let's get into the video. So ever since the inception of the channel, I've been talking a lot about how to get into Warhammer 40k. I've been analyzing and making videos about Warhammer starter boxes that includes 2-player battle boxes, start collectings, combat patrols, and any other introductory box that Warhammer 40k really has to offer. But I've never clearly answered the question if combat patrols or start collectings or 2-player battle boxes are the correct way to start a new army or to get into Warhammer 40k as a whole. So let's talk a little bit about what makes Warhammer special when it comes to starting out and what different armies require from a new player. Alright, so let's start slow and talk about money and savings first and see what starter sets and start collectings and combat patrols have to offer when it comes to savings. So generally speaking, savings in 40k or Age of Sigmar by extension usually range between 50 and 20%. The average I'm always expecting GW to hit is right around 33%, which is like 1/3 of the original price, which I think is the bare minimum GW should hit, with savings boxes to make them competitive against other savings or other value boxes, as it were. So generally speaking, there are boxes that have such big savings that there is really no way around it. Like, for example, to give a concrete example, the regular Space Marine Combat Patrol has savings of 50% because there are a lot of, monopost models in there, and GW felt like, throwing all of them in there. It was a previous start collecting, and they've even thrown a vehicle in there that on its own is very expensive. Meanwhile, on the other end of the spectrum, the Deathwatch Combat Patrol minus the upgrade sprues is only 20%. Not everyone is going to make use of those upgrade sprues. If you do, the savings are obviously a little bit better. I think around 25%. So yeah, I've made videos on all of the combat patrols that are out there. I'm currently working on the Orc Combat Patrol. So if you're interested in any of those, the playlist is linked down in the description below. Another advantage a lot of people see in those value boxes is that it's just a single box. You pick it up, you buy it, and you basically have an army ready to go. That's what the motto of Start Collectings was back when they were released. You just pick up a box and you have a collection to start with. But generally speaking, Start Collectings are not the best way to start because not all of them are playable out of the box. Some don't even hit 500 points, which is the minimum for Warhammer 40k games. And others don't have an HQ choice, like for example the Orc Start Collecting, which is slowly getting rotated out as the video gets uploaded. Now, when it comes to combat patrols, these are way more unified and uniform. You are getting at least 25 power level and 500 points lists. You are getting an HQ choice. You're basically getting a completely legal 500 point army for Warhammer 40k 9th edition. And you can just pick it up, assemble it, paint it, and then just throw it on the table, and you'll be right around 500 points. Sometimes you have to subtract a couple of models. Sometimes you have to, keep a closer eye on the loadouts of your models. But generally speaking, it's always around 500 points. And you can, generally speaking, always play combat patrols against each other without too much of a hassle. So in that regard, Start Collectings don't get that benefit of being beginner friendly. Meanwhile, combat patrols really have that benefit of just picking it up and having a 500 point army ready to go. So usually whenever I have new players ask me what they should buy and what they should consider when getting into Warhammer 40k, there's obviously a long-winded explanation. I give all the information I, can offer without it being overwhelming. But generally speaking, I do usually recommend combat patrols if their army offers that kind of thing. Not all armies have combat patrols as of yet, but that will change, I think, in a year. I think approximately all of the armies should have a combat patrol. And that's basically the thing. For new players, combat patrols are perfect. They can just read up on the different armies on like a wiki, and then just pick a box, buy it, assemble it, and have their first Warhammer 40k experience that way. And they don't feel like, they've bought something wrong and that doesn't fit the list or anything. Obviously, if you're a collector, you have it way easier. You just don't buy combat patrols at all and just buy the singular models that you find really interesting, like, I don't know, Abaddon or Roboute Guilliman, and just paint them and put them on your shelf or something, and, be done with it and improve your craft of painting. But if you're going to play, I think a combat patrol box for a new player makes sense. Meanwhile, I think if you're a veteran and don't exactly need everything that is in a combat patrol box, you're probably better off just buying what you are missing and what you think would add to your army or what you think is cool, instead of buying a whole combat patrol box because you are saving a couple of pounds or euros just because, you wanted aggressors, so you might as well buy the Blood Angels combat patrol and get everything else around it just, for no reason. And a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people in my local GW are doing that. A lot of people I'm playing with are doing that. And it's really not a good idea, because usually those sprues you have extra in those combat patrols and that you really didn't need, they just lie around. It's very rarely that I see them painted, because there's just no motivation for those players to, paint up those additional intercessors. They already have 20, and they don't really need those 5 additional ones from the Blood Angels combat patrol. And then there are additional incursors, which they also don't really need, and so on. And those sprues just lay around and eventually get sold if they are really lucky. And, and if they want to bother with shipping and everything. But yeah, generally speaking, if you're a new player, combat patrols are a great way to get into your army, to have a good starting point for a list. And from there you can expand. And, for that you can check out, for example, my combat patrol analysis videos. And if you're a veteran and you see that a combat patrol offers everything you want to expand your list, for example, you bought Indomitus and you see a certain Space Marine combat patrol and it adds perfectly to what your plan is, there's obviously nothing against buying it. But generally speaking, veterans are better off just buying the singular kits of what they need, and thus they are saving time and money, and they don't really feel bad that they have sprues lying around that they never wanted to paint to begin with. Another thing to really consider is also that combat patrols usually have a lot of models. It's usually between 15 and 40 models, I think, is the Death Guard combat patrol. And it's also a little bit overwhelming. Maybe you don't even know if you enjoy painting as a new player. Or maybe you don't know if you enjoy the hobby side at all and if just playing is your thing. In that case, if you're really not sure and if you don't have a GW near you, a GW store, and can test out painting, or if you don't have a friend who can, hand you a model and some paint to just try it out, I would really recommend buying maybe a single box of like a couple of models, like 5 or 10 of them. Or if you really want to go a little bit cheaper for your first model, just to, so the entry cost is a little bit lower, you could buy a character model and test it out that way. But yeah, if it's your first time painting character models usually leads to those people stripping their models again or buying that model again so they can, improve their painting skills and then make their characters look adequately. But generally speaking, the best way to try Warhammer out and the hobby side of things is to buy a separate smaller kit, ideally something cheaper like Orc Boys, the old ones are relatively cheap, or Dark Elder Cabalites are also a cheap kit. And there you can just try things out, buy a couple of paints, a cheap primer, and just go at it. And once you find that you enjoy yourself, then you can buy a huge value box like a Christmas box or a Combat Patrol. To sum this up, there is no clear-cut answer if Combat Patrols are the correct way to get into Warhammer 40k, or if star collectings are the correct way to get into Age of Sigmar. You really need to figure out if you enjoy painting. You can look up painting videos and check if it's something you can imagine yourself doing for hours and hours on end. if you enjoy the playing side, do you really care for the army that you are getting there in those combat patrols? Or, you know, a Blood Angels player doesn't necessarily need the units that are in the Blood Angels combat patrol. You would usually want to have melee orientated units, and those you can buy separately. You don't really need the combat patrol for that. There's just a lot of things to consider. So generally speaking, take your time if you're a new player, research a little bit, ask questions, and buy, you know, with an informed opinion, basically. And meanwhile, veterans know exactly what they are doing. At least I'm assuming that. If you're like 10 years in the hobby, you're probably well versed on what you're exactly buying. And there's really no advice to give here. Veterans know what they're doing, but especially new players, take it slow. Don't rush out and buy the first box you see. Get a couple of paints, get, you know, familiar with what Warhammer 40k is, what those armies are, pick one and take it slow. And that's basically all the advice that you need. All right, if you have anything else to add, any additional advice for new players, or if you have any questions, I'd gladly answer them in the comments. Other than that, thank you so much for listening, and I see you in the next video. Bye bye.